Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay in the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Welcome, one and all, to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, and Brian Murphy with you here on this Wednesday, right smack dab in the middle of August. Now we're just getting to a point where like the football is just taunting us with how close it is. We're 10 days away from week 0. We've got lots to talk about. Like Twitter is getting very randy, shall we say, out there. On
Twitter is getting testy.
People are really starting to like get to be over it, at least at this point. So we've got lots of football to talk about, boys. And by the way, football of a number of different kinds. Obviously, we have plenty of UCF football news to talk about. And our guest on today's show, Tiffany Sahaydak, head coach of UCF women's soccer, joins us. What a busy summer she had, celebrating the 20th anniversary of the 99ers, of which she was a part, winning the World Cup for the United States, and then getting ready for a team that's in a tremendous amount of transition this year. And she's always a great interview. That's going to be the first of our fall sports preview interviews that we're doing with her. So we'll be getting to that in the second segment. Gentlemen, have you been accosted by Twitter in the last 48 hours or so for, I don't know, whatever, like some innocuous thing? Like, I don't know, Murph, did you tweet out a picture of chicken parmesan and people were saying that you were a USF fan all of a sudden?
No, did you tweet out a picture of chicken parmesan and all of a sudden people were saying you were a USF fan?
But I feel like I feel like it's right around the corner at this point.
I feel like that's on your to-do list for Thursday.
Elo, I know you're a USF plant.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Whatever. Let's just go.
All right, we got lots to talk about here, but we're going to start with it's a busy day as we're getting ready for the rankings to come out. So obviously the coaches poll came out already. Yeah, I know. Everyone's excited. Everyone's real excited about this. This is how we know we're getting into silly season right now. Is UCF 17th in the coaches. AP comes out in when does it come out? I wrote it down. August 19th. So 5 days. Monday. All right. So a couple of the AP writers, the AP voters who are writers out there, they are teasing out their polls, their top 25s that they sent into the Associated Press. So one of them was Brett McMurphy of Stadium. Well known in UCF circles for reasons which we won't get into just about yet. But he listed, he put up his AP poll, and UCF wasn't even ranked in his poll. So our very own Luke Sarris, Savage Luke, messaged him, sent him an email, said, "Hey, Brett, like, what's up?" And just wondering if he would get a response. And lo and behold, Brett McMurphy responded. You can actually see his responses right now on blackandgoldbanneret.com. And I just want to read a couple of takes here that Brett said. Luke's first question to him was, what is the primary reason for you leaving UCF out of your preseason top 25 for the second season in a row? I think that's what the real thing is. And here's McMurphy's answer, quote, whether I ranked the team last year has nothing to do with ranking/not ranking them this season. Why is UCF not in the top 25? UCF lost the most productive player in school history at quarterback, and also his backup to unfortunate injuries. Brandon Wimbush takes over after completing 53% of his passes last year with a TD interception rate of 4-6. By comparison, Ian Book was 68%, 19-7 for the Irish if you wanted to blame the Irish's offensive style for Wimbush's numbers. So I believe the offense will regress for UCF this year. The defense was 13th worst in the nation against the run last year and returns only 5 starters. The defense probably will be the same or worse than last year, while the offense won't be as productive. I think that's now. Here's where Luke went a little bit, and I talked to Luke. I was like, "Geez, Luke, you kind of went in a little hard on him here."
That's why he's known as Savage.
That's why he's Savage, Luke. He has his last question is, do you have a vendetta against UCF or their fan base that is influencing your voting? Or do you truly believe they're not that good? And McMurphy goes, yes, I have a vendetta against UCF. I have a vendetta against all 130 teams. Well, except Clemson, which I voted number 1. I based my top 25 on which teams I believe are the best 25 starting the season. It's not a prediction on how I think they'll be ranked at the end of the season. One last thing. It's my opinion. That's all. If you disagree, that's great. If you agree, great. I thought Brett was fair. I thought he was tough, but I thought he was fair. And he lays out the rationale for why UCF might not be ranked as high as people think in the AP poll to start the season. It's because you're missing a quarterback, you're missing the backup quarterback, and the guy who's back there is grad senior, but wasn't all that mind blowing the last time we saw him out there. And the defense lost a bunch of starters. Eric, you brought up the fact that a lot of guys do look at returning starters and make a calculation off of that. He's right about the fact that look, I'm just one person here, and there's one my vote. It's one vote. Let's see what the rest of the poll looks like, and you can read the rest of his answers on blackgoldbanneret.com. But I mean, what do we think? Obviously, I know you guys think that his rationale is fair and probably correct, but is that the right rationale here overall, or do you think that maybe national media are missing something?
Wow. Oh boy, I'll go with that one. Here's the thing. This is it's worth pointing out, this is the second year in a row that Brett McMurphy has left out UCF from his preseason top 25 poll.
Last year, I don't know why he did. This year,
I think that's where Luke is coming. I'm defending Luke and his question about the buy agenda, because that's 2 years in a row that you don't have him ranked. Now, does Brett is his concerns valid? Questions are legit? Sure, it's a fair opinion on that. Is it worthy? Does that mean they shouldn't be ranked as one of the 25 teams? That's for others to, some people might agree or disagree with that. The thing with the polls is this, and people, I think what's happened now, and we do this as a society with social media, is whatever team you root for, you're going to pick out the person that doesn't like your team's ranking, right? So if like, hey, he didn't vote for our team, he had us ranked 23rd, 24th. We ignore the voter that voted my team number 6 and probably overrated us, but we'll go after the guy that totally disrespects us.
Well, because that guy who voted as number 6 was right and that other guy's wrong. Duh.
Correct. Well, yeah, but who says who's right and who's wrong, right? Everybody has an opinion, and there's no games being played. So, he has the right to do that, just like anybody else has a right to vote for whoever they want. That's the beauty. It's in a poll. The thing about polls, it's an opinion. It's not based on, facts. And look,
it's also an aggregated opinion.
But I think everybody's influence. Look. Like, everybody that has a problem with it, like us in the media here that watch UCF every day, we're biased too. We're influenced because, we watch UCF every day. How can you not rank them 12th and 13th? Meanwhile, we're trying to knock a team that's probably playing in the Big 12. Let's say we're knocking, or a Big 10. Let's say we knock
Iowa State. We would blow them out. Well, how do you know? How many snaps have you seen of Iowa State, right? So it's all subjective to that. Do I think Brett has an agenda? I don't know. I don't know if the agenda or is anti-UCF is the word, but I will say this. I think Brett likes the attention. And what's a better way to get attention than sparking a certain fan base that is going to react to it, right? Murph, what do you think? Are people like Brett missing something here, or is it just, like what's the big deal?
Yeah, I mean, what's the big deal, really? I mean,
You're a writer type.
It's his opinion, and this is not the CFP, nor does this have any correlation to the CFP, and any suggestion within is incorrect. So this is just a conversation piece, and UCF fans don't like his opinion, and that's totally fair. And I think I was most struck in this article. I'm most struck that this article actually exists. That's what I'm most struck about. I am most struck that Brett McMurphy took the time to respond to Luke Sarris because he didn't have to, and he could have been just like I'm sure he's getting tons of hate. Well, we know he is. We know he's getting heaps of hate from UCF fans about how he's disrespecting them and whatnot. But good on him for not only responding and answering each question, but he also could have been like really curt and like really like aggressively pithy. And he wasn't.
He could have been a real jerk about it, but he put some thought into it.
Like his explanations are like thought out and like filled out. Like he provides stats and like actual reasoning. So whether you disagree or not, like you can at least see where he's coming from. And that's commendable. I mean, again, you can disagree with his opinion and his thought, but he went out there, he responded. He gave you his evidence that he's using to not include UCF, and I respect him for that. That was pretty cool, and I'm glad that this exists. When this popped up this morning, when this was published this morning, I was really happy for Luke to get this out there. But I was moreover just shocked that Brett McMurphy actually like came out with his own defense and his own explanation to us.
In fairness, he also appeared on the morning show in Orlando open mic as well to basically address it as well. So, I think Brett was more than willing to. But I've booked Brett in the past when I was producer at radio, and he was very easy, like as far as to book and stuff.
To his credit, he is highly accessible.
Again, I may not. I don't agree with everything he writes or his opinions, but that's okay. That's okay. The world moves on, and again, as I've told fans on social media that worry about rankings in the preseason and all this stuff, if you win games, it'll take care of itself. It did the last 2 years, period. That's it. So it doesn't matter what the poll says on Monday. It doesn't matter what this one writer or college football media guy here says. It doesn't matter. It's going to take care of itself on the field. And if they win the games that they have to win, they will achieve their goal and end up in Dallas at the major bowl game. That's the goal here. That's really the only thing that matters. I know me and Murph have said this, and we'll say this again. The only thing that matters about this ranking is where is UCF compared to your other quote G5 teams, because you want to be the highest ranked G5 team. That's the only thing that matters. Everything else is just a lot of gibberish.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. McMurphy did put, let's see, I think he put Army at 25. He put Memphis at 24. And I'm scrolling up because it's a whole graphical interface thing. That's it for his G5 teams there. So, I mean, you could make a pretty fair. And by the way, he on Stadium, he lists why he listed every guy, every team the way he did. So you can read that there on Stadium. And by the way, and you're right. And I do want to thank Brett for actually, reaching back out to us. Like I said, he didn't have to do that. There's a gazillion guys who wouldn't, but he did. I don't necessarily entirely agree with him, but hey, look, I mean, it's his opinion. And he's been doing this for a long time. And, and a lot of UCF fans are going to be like, yeah, well, he stinks. Well, I mean, if you put UCF at 16, you'd be singing his praises. But, let's be fair about it, right? But by the way, go ahead.
If you are a college football, no, not in college football. If you are a voice for a certain sport, if you're a columnist or an insider, if your opinion is supposed to matter, and you're doing something that everyone agrees with, you're probably bad at your job.
Yeah, that's That's fair. But by the way, this brings up a little promotional note that I wanted to bring up. Today was the release of the first ever SB Nation Fan Pulse preseason top 25. An initiative from SB Nation and all the team sites, including ourselves, to basically come up with a fan-voted aggregate top 25 that fans vote on throughout the year. And the national poll had UCF at 16th. Fans of non-autonomous 5 schools were dropped into one pool. Their ballots were all put into one pool, and they had UCF ranked 14th. The 2 schools that they skipped ahead of them were Penn State and Utah compared to the national ones. So, and I thought that was fairly interesting. Coaches Poll 17, SB Nation Fan Poll 16. And by the way, this is all happening 5 days before we even know what the AP is going to look like. I mean, for all we know, the AP is going to have UCF at 16 or 17 also. So I don't know.
And then also we'll do, like as Eric said, we will do this for the next couple of months where we will say again, please don't worry too much about this.
All right. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Okay, I want you guys
Jeff,
to help.
That's you. That means you.
No, I want you guys to help me dispel this myth, because I got hit up on Twitter for saying, like, look, why do we even care about the Associated Press poll? It has nothing to do with the college football playoff.
Correct.
The CFP is going to do whatever it wants. This is a preseason poll. Like, why are we getting, all worked up about this? And everyone came back with the same line, which I think all 3 of us agree is wrong. And that is, they all kept saying that the CFP voters, they look at the AP just like they look at the coaches to put together their ballot, and it also factors in, like, wins against ranked teams means strength, factors in strength of schedule, blah blah blah. I'm like, it's all baloney. No, it doesn't. Strength of schedule is calculated by wins and losses, and then opponents' wins and losses, and the CFP voters, if you go back and you actually look at the history, they don't give 2 craps about what the AP or the coaches poll say, because the last 2 seasons, the CFP poll has put UCF 1 and sometimes 2 spots, actually sometimes 3 spots lower than the coaches of the AP have. So don't tell me that they're influenced by it, because they're obviously not, right?
We did a show right before the coaches poll came out. We said, what do we think we'd be ranked at? I think we were all within a spot or 2 what their actual ranking was, right? If I recall correctly. I think, Jeff, you said 18. Murph, you might have said 19. I think I said maybe 20. I took 20, whatever. We were all in the same ballpark.
Yeah, me and you talked about 19 to 20, and you said, I'll take 20. And I said, okay, I'll take above 20, meaning 19 or lower.
Right. Yeah. Well, they ended up being 17. What were we influenced by? There was no poll that influenced us. We just made an educated guess. However rationale we decided, we feel that's kind of where we think they were going to be at. And they were. We weren't influenced by a poll. Yeah. And it's not like, do you really need the AP and the coaches poll? I don't think the playoff committee's like, man, they got Alabama and Clemson's 1-2. Let's write that down. Let's ignore the fact they've been the 2 best programs in the last 5 years. No, they voted 1-2 this week, so we're going to do that. Come on. Come on.
Yeah,
I mean, do brands matter? Sure, they do. They do matter. But again, to suggest that the polls influence the playoff committee, no, it doesn't. And last year, UCF was ranked higher in the AP and the coaches poll than they were in the playoff poll. So why would the play? In fact, I believe UCF was ranked higher than Michigan in the AP and the coaches poll, but yet in the playoff poll, they had Michigan ahead of UCF. So if they were so influenced by the AP and the coaches poll, why didn't they just put UCF ahead of Michigan?
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
Well, and we're going to talk in a few weeks when we get to the Stanford game, assuming everything holds true to form and Stanford's still ranked, about Stanford being ranked. And we are going to mention with real seriousness about it being a ranked matchup. But that's because that is a selling point to the game. It is not to point out that if they beat this team, then that's ranked in the AP poll, then this will do this for their CFP poll ranking. It's a selling point for the game, not talking about what really matters, which is the CFP poll.
That is 100% correct. That's a brilliant point right there. He just said that. That might be one of the top points that's been ever made in the show history. And probably any platform you listen to on UCF podcast.
Coming up tomorrow, Eric Lopez's top 10 points ever made on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
There you go.
Go ahead.
No, because he's right though. People always like, what's the point of, why are we doing a preseason poll? Why is it? Because Murph just nailed it. The reason they do preseason polls is to help them market certain games. So for example, when Oregon plays Auburn in Arlington, that looks like an attractive matchup. It's a top 15 matchup. We don't know if either of those two teams could have 4 losses by December. Same thing with the UCF Stanford game. Stanford, I think, could be a 7-5 team by the end of the year. But to Murph's point, if they're ranked, that helps sell that game. It's a brilliant point. That's why they do the rankings, because people wonder, well, why does it do it? They should just do it in October. The problem is, if you wait till October, how do you market the first 2 months of football? That's why college football, and for that matter, all college sports do that for preseason polls, is to get you psyched up. And so I think it's a great point.
Yeah, no, I just don't want it. I'm cautioning UCF fans. I know they're not going to listen, but I caution UCF fans to please be smart about this, because you can't have it both ways, where you say, well, these rankings, when UCF is getting shoved down compared to the CFP poll, you can't say, well, these rankings obviously don't matter, and then when it suits your purpose, then you turn around and say, oh, look how much these rankings matter. Don't tell me that they don't matter, because they do. But they either do or they don't. Pick one.
And by the way, you could argue, and we don't know where they're going to end up ranking the code, but if you could argue them being ranked 17th, which is, I believe, is higher ranked than they were a year ago, with as many questions they have with the quarterback questions that they have, you could make the argument that they're actually getting more respect. That they're starting to grow now. That's a positive, there's last year was you can't win without Scott Frost and things like that. You don't have McMurphy makes a point. You lost your franchise, arguably the greatest quarterback in program history. Then you lose a guy that probably might have been the favorite to be the incumbent, at least a starter who has experience anyway. So now you're starting to transfer, and then you got some question marks with the kicking game. You're actually getting respect, which is what you wanted, right? Last year we complained because we were ranked behind teams like Boise State because of Boise's reputation. We're starting to earn a reputation as far as on the field, and I think that's a big positive.
Yeah. We're 6 spots higher in the preseason coaches poll than UCF was last year with Mackenzie Milton. So, and
historically, that's how this sport works, is usually the more time, if you win year in, year out, you start getting more benefits of the doubt.
Exactly.
I think we're starting to get that.
Yeah. All right. So we'll keep an eye on that going forward. All right. Big story that broke today. I want to transition over to this before we take our first break. It was announced, Mark Daniels actually announced on his show, The Beat of Sports, on the Knights flagship station, 96.9 The Game, that a dear friend of both of ours, Eric, and UCF's sideline reporter for the last 24 seasons, Jerry O'Neill, is retiring from the UCF broadcast team. Jerry actually called into the show, said he was hanging it up. He wrote an excellent letter on UCFKnights.com, which you can read. We have a story on the site that goes over both. Jerry's first worked with UCF in 1995, and was the pregame host as well. And roam the sidelines. Actually, you see him down at the coin toss, do the whole thing. And he's hanging it up. He's hanging it up for good this year. And riding off into the sunset with his wife Annie. Leger Douzable will be joining the broadcast team for UCF as a sort of sideline analyst for the home games and for the FAU game. Scott Adams, who we both know also, is going to be moving into Jerry's slot as a sideline reporter and pregame host. Leger, of course, 10 years in the NFL, played under George O'Leary. It's from 2004 to 2007. A long time, 9 NFL teams in his decade-long career. He was just recently with CBS Sports HQ doing some work for them as an NFL and college analyst. Eric, you've worked very tightly with Jerry over the years. I don't even know what question to ask you. Just give me your thoughts on what Jerry meant to you and what you felt he meant to UCF.
Well, and what he meant to the market. Think about not during that 24 years where he was a sideline reporter, he was also a radio host in the market. And that was significant because when you wanted to hear somebody talk UCF football, you knew there was 2 people in the market for the most part that you guarantee was going to talk UCF football. And that was Mark Daniels and his shows and Jerry on his show. And that's been the voices. And for Jerry on the sideline, for 24 years, for me, obviously I worked with him. I was his producer over when he was at 1080 for Tuck and O'Neill for many years. I helped book guests for like 5-6 years. I was a co-host with him when Mike would be off many a times. I even recently, earlier this year when he was on 96.9 The Game on the finish line, I was filling in for Shot. I got to co-host with him. And so I learned a lot in that regard. And then when I was covering UCF football, I would see him all the time. And what I'll miss, it's going to be weird. Obviously, forget the great work he does on the sideline and the entertainment and the passion that he brings to his industry. No one has more passion that brings it to the table than Jerry does. The fact that I will miss that fact that when I go down to the press box, he's always one of the – and Murph can talk about this because Murph gets there very early. Jerry's one of the first people there because he's prepping for the pregame show. He's gotten his notes, and I've been blessed that I have filled in for Scott 3 occasions in the past on the pregame show. So I know how Jerry works at it. He's tossed it to me, works relentlessly on that. Very passionate. Doesn't mind taking a joke because he's taken plenty in that from that crew where, if Notre Dame's losing on the scoreboard, trust me, he's hearing about it and we tease him about it. But it's a fun atmosphere and it's fun. He's always smiling. He's always in a good place. And he has the passion for the UCF football. And I will miss that, seeing that starting this year. It's going to be very strange. Media people tend to go down in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, and it's going to be weird for me when I go down there the first time and Jerry's nowhere around. I'll never forget the South Florida game in 2013. I was down on the sideline standing next to him when Blake Bortles hit Bashard Perriman for that touchdown, which would turn out to be the go-ahead touchdown as they beat South Florida on that Friday night. That will be weird. And I'm sure it'll be weird for Mark and Frank Lover, the engineer. Those guys, and Gary Parrish, those guys have been together from the beginning. And I think those guys as a whole deserve a ton of credit for building the UCF broadcast from scratch back in the mid-'90s to what it is now. And I hope in the future they all get inducted into the UCF Hall of Fame, maybe as a group.
Yeah. I think about that when they started, UCF was still 1AA. Murph, you've seen Jerry. What about your interactions with him over the years?
Well, I can't top that. I mean, I can't top, Eric's, decades long experience with Jerry. I just know, everything he said is so true. And I do think what sticks out to me is Jerry's passion for the game, both before the game and during the game. I mean, I remember, in the conference championship game 2 years ago against Memphis, the first time against Memphis 2 years ago, and when they missed that field goal that would have won Memphis the game, you could see Jerry underneath the crossbar, and he misses it, and he's doing like his best Carlton Fisk, waving it wide, and then gets a huge fist pump once it passes the bar. It was and you could sense that before the game too. He just loved being there, loved doing what he did. Was always nice and cordial. Always had a hello for me, and we chat a little bit. But I think that sort of you always want to love what you do, right? I mean, it's never work if you love what you do. And so I don't think he worked for the last 24 years because he just brought so much passion to his job.
Jerry was certainly an influence on me certainly starting off as a listener when he and Shot Doctor had their show back when I was a student and I came to Orlando in the early 2000s. And then later on as a student, when I saw him, working the sidelines when I was shooting video, you see Jerry, I say hi to him, he didn't know me from Adam, but he was always nice to me. And then later on, when I came back to UCF, when I was working in town, I got to know him a little bit better, but I really didn't get to work with him, overly closely until I started helping out, thanks to you, Eric, at 1080, working with Sports Talk Florida, and writing stuff. And I would, would run some UCF things by him here and there, just to see what he thought, because I always knew how incredibly well versed he was in everything that went back, that I was interested in with UCF. And whether he and I wrote this in our little tribute to him, whether Jerry knows it or not, he is at least instrumental in the idea that turned into this site, because he encouraged me and gave me the idea that that I was actually doing the right thing in terms of writing about UCF and covering stories about UCF, and that I was on the right path about a bunch of things. And then when we decided to, when I took my expertise from there, when the Sports Talk Florida thing went away, and then I started this site, and then I brought you on, Eric. First of all, we got tremendous help from Jerry, because he would have us on the show as guests when we were first starting out the site. I cannot thank him enough for that, because that gave us, legitimacy that, quite frankly, I don't know that we would have ever been able to get with UCF fans. Had we not gotten the Stash's seal of approval. So, Jerry, I don't know if you're listening, but on behalf of all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, thank you. You've been amazing to all of us and so many more people throughout the Orlando market and around the country, really, with your influence on us in this industry. Our best to you, our best to Annie. And listen, don't be a stranger around here. Let us know. Let us know if there's anything, if you ever want to get together, because we're here for you anytime you want. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk women's soccer, our first fall preview. And it's going to be with Tiffany Sahaydak, UCF's head soccer coach. We'll talk about her getting back together with her old friends from the 99ers, the USA women's national team, celebrating their 20th anniversary, and what's in store for her Knights in 2019. Stick around. We're back after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez here with you. We're starting I can't believe it, here we are. It's time for our fall sport previews. And first up, as she has been the last 3 years now, is one of our favorite interviews, of course, one of our heroes from the 1999 U.S. women's national team and the head women's soccer coach at UCF, Tiffany Sahaydak, joining us once again. How are you, Coach Tiff?
I'm doing great. Soccer season's going on, so very happy.
Well, it never really ended for you this summer, did it? You were busy running around with the 99ers, celebrating the 20th anniversary of your guys' World Cup, and lo and behold, your compatriots win their second consecutive World Cup this year. Tell us about the experience of this summer, not just celebrating the monumental victory that you had with your teammates now 2 decades ago. I can't even believe I'm saying that, but
Don't remind me.
But seeing Team USA continue to dominate in the fashion that they have in the last two World Cups.
Oh yeah, I mean, being a veteran of the national team and a World Cup champion, the whole 99ers. I mean, we are behind the current team, and we were cheering them on, and we were fans. We all got to meet the team and spend some time together during alumni weekends of all national team players. And it was just really cool all being together and cheering each other on. And it's just really cool to be part of that group. And then just to see them carry on the torch is awesome.
Those players on the team this year, they grew up watching you. And Mia and Brandy and Michelle and everybody on that team, and some of them were even must have been like toddlers when you guys won. So they grew up in a world where the breakthrough that you guys made 20 years ago, which I remember. I remember watching and running around my living room when you guys beat China in the Rose Bowl. And you guys were, I counted you and the rest of that team as one of my sports heroes of my teens, and because of what you did for the country and for sport in general, is one of the most thrilling sports moments I can remember from my youth, watching it on TV. And they grew up in a world where that was already that there wasn't a breakthrough to be had because it had already happened. So from your perspective, how much has soccer and women's sports in general, I think, grown in this 20-year period between now and then?
I mean, it's grown massively. I mean, if you think we have these women are being able to play professionally, and I know we had a professional, league after '99, but wasn't able to withstand, and it folded eventually, and we tried it a couple more times. But we have a league that's doing well here in the U.S., but not just here in the U.S. If you look at it globally, there are leagues all around the world that are dumping money into women's soccer, and you now see the parity amongst all the nations. During the World Cup, think about Spain, kind of a black horse coming out and doing really well. Well, guess what? They have a really great league that's being supported now. And so you just see if the money is there and the countries invest in their women, you're going to see those countries stand out in the World Cup. So the parity is there, and the support is getting so much better around the world. Americans, we've always been, when you compare us to the other countries, we've always been supported really well when you compare us to other women's teams around the world. But now you see other countries, investing, and now there's more parity, which is amazing.
Coach, when you watch the U.S. team play, do you watch it as a former player that's been there and think as a player as you're watching that match, or are you thinking watching that match as a coach from that perspective?
I watch it as a coach. I think I've been far removed from being a player now, where I don't know, sometimes I can't even believe that I was a player the way that I am now. So like another lifetime ago. But I think I've been coaching long enough where, as a player, I don't think I analyze the game as well as I do now. And so definitely, watching the games, it's wonderful for professional development. Tim and I watch the World Cup games, and you just look at it with different, eyes as a coach, which is pretty cool, because Tim and I learned a lot from the World Cup and picked up on some things, and I've already shared them with our current team. And you could always get better and always grow as a coach, and we definitely used that opportunity to do that.
Perfect segue to talk about UCF this year, Coach. We last year, it would be easy to say that it was a quote off year, end quote, but I don't think that was necessarily true. I mean, because at the end of the day, you guys had you had the chance to host the conference championship heading into the final regular season game. You lose by 1 goal, and then you still have the tournament out in Tampa, and then lose by 1 goal there. It just felt like the coin kept coming up tails like a few too many times. And you're like, man, when can we catch a break? When you look back on last year, how do you evaluate it now that you're looking forward to this year?
Yeah, we have high standards here. So even though, we were 1 goal away of winning the conference, regular season, so you feel like that's a good season, but we have high standards, so we feel like it was a down year because we want to win the championship. We want to win regular season, and if we don't, we're saying, okay, well, what happened? And going to the NCAA tournament and missing on that. So I think we just, lost a few games during not just conference, but during the regular season that we really couldn't afford to lose, where we just took hits, in the RPI. So it's a good, lesson for us. And, the team's very motivated now. And I think in everyone's eyes, if we don't, win either a regular season or the conference tournament and don't get into the NCAA tournament, then that's the down year for us. So, that's okay. And we just pick ourselves back up and focus on this season, and hopefully we can accomplish those goals again.
Of course, one of your leaders will be the senior Kanya Plummer, who was on the World Cup with Team Jamaica, was the captain there. How does that experience for her, being in the World Cup, do you think will make a difference for her this year now, moving over to playing in a senior year? And what certainly her, of course, mentioning in the all-conference there on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, it should give her, confidence knowing that she's played against the best players in the world on the biggest stage that you can play on. So hopefully that's just helped her confidence level. And I think, she is a captain this year, one of 3 captains. And, I just want her to use that experience to be a vocal leader out there as well. And, hopefully getting everyone to rally around her and the rest of the captains just to, amp up the intensity level at training and intensity level in games. And hopefully just all around it's just helped her confidence and playing style, even the way that she plays and the decisions she had to make in the World Cup. It's got to have had an impact, on her decision making for this year.
Kanya and Kristen Scott were both named to the conference preseason all-conference team on Tuesday. Tell us about Kristen, because she was such a wonderful find for you guys last year. She started all 18 games. She had 6 goals, which was second on the team. But you're looking for a little bit more growth out of her this year too, aren't you?
Absolutely. We need growth out of a lot of the players, and that's one of our biggest when we talk about recruiting players, and a big part of our program is growth and wanting to see players improve and excel every year. And so, that was a standout season for Kristen and, a great place to start. But this year she has competition. And I think that's the difference between this year and last year is she didn't have as many players pushing her. So I think, she had a little bit more freedom to make mistakes and still have the job. This year, she doesn't have that flexibility. So we have a large roster this year, and there are a lot of front runners. And so I think it's going to be great because it's just going to, promote a lot of competition and training, and it's going to force people to get out of their comfort zone and get better every day. And they're just going to be held accountable with every session. So, Kristen has got a lot of work cut out for her because she's got people breathing down her neck.
Yeah.
And that's got to mean a lot to you have some depth there because, for people that don't know, a soccer roster is very fluid. You have players, when you have talented players, sometimes in soccer, they tend to leave, go early and play professionally, decide to do that. So you got to adjust for that. I know that's happened to you, and even with that affected this roster. So it's good to have some depth at areas because you just never, with talent all around and competition that brings in there, because you never know. Players graduate, but then also sometimes opportunities come elsewhere.
Oh, definitely. And, just to mention, you mentioned, players leaving to go professionally. So we've, lost Dina and Steph, and they're playing back in Germany. But the good thing is, we went to work right away knowing we were going to have them back for this fall. And like I said, we've added to our roster, especially in the forward positions, and been able to replace them. And hopefully we'll have, some standout players that can get the job done.
Life at goalie kind of is going to be different this year. No Vera, so that's going to be different at least for me, getting not used to seeing her name. What can you tell us about the impact she had on your program? But at the same time, now you've got someone else. It's someone else's turn, and in a position that's rich with tradition at UCF, as we know, with the recent Hall of Fame, one of the great goalies, Alina Ray, is being inducted. So Vera might be joining her down the road. So it's a great position, a pride position. What can you tell us about that position this year?
Yeah, so our starting goalkeeper right now is Caroline Delau, and she's a redshirt freshman. So you're right. I mean, Vera, she was a 4-year starter, and we had the luxury of, having her every year. And that was just a very comfortable place that we've been in, knowing that we've got, an All-American goalkeeper holding it down for us. And now we have a freshman, redshirt freshman that's going to have to take the reins and do a great job for us. And she was here in this past fall, and she was able to train and watch and observe, Vera, and she was in a wonderful environment to grow, even though she wasn't getting the experience during the games. She's been in a great training environment under Chris Cummings, our goalkeeper coach, but then, having Vera to watch and observe and to train with and to compete against every single day. So, Caroline is young, but she's a stud. I think she's great. And she has leadership qualities already, which you want in a goalkeeper. So even though she's young, she may make some freshman errors, and that's going to be part of her growth. But, she's very athletic, and I may go as far as saying she may be in a better place than Vera was her freshman year here. So I have high hopes for Caroline.
When we look at the league as a whole right now, USF was picked as the preseason favorite, and Memphis right behind them. They both had 4 first-place votes, but USF had two points ahead of them. You guys are picked in third with 2 first-place votes, but I did a double take when I saw this, Coach. I looked at the preseason United Soccer coaches poll, and I'm like, where is UCF? And they didn't even give you guys a vote. Now, are you taking that preseason poll and sticking it in everyone's locker and saying, this is what everyone thinks of you, let's go prove them wrong, or what?
Preseason polls are kind of funny. I mean, we need to have them, and they're great for recruiting, but it's really just everybody speculating, and you have no idea.
Right.
You just really, people voting have no idea what it's going to be. And, if you're picked in the top 20, I would say, great, awesome. This is great for recruiting. People are seeing that we're top 20, but at the end of the day, what happens before we do anything? I mean, you just don't know. We've been voted and not stayed in, and we haven't been voted and made our way up. So there's just so much time to prove ourselves, and actually don't take too much of that to heart. And we train as hard and work as hard, whether we were voted number 1 or not even in the mix. So, we're pretty focused as far as what we know we need to do. And the voting, like I said, is great for recruiting. But other than that, we just kind of stay focused and not try to focus on that stuff.
Boy, that sounds like the same thing in a lot of preseason polls in a lot of other sports. I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah. Let's talk about the schedule real quick, because you got some good teams coming to town here. Right now, you're halfway through your exhibition season. You got an exhibition game this coming Sunday against North Texas. The regular season starts with a pair of games at home against Big Ten opponents. Wisconsin on Thursday, August 22nd into the season opener. Ohio State on Wednesday, August 28th. You go to Gainesville, but you're also bringing to town Arizona State, Stetson in the non-conference before you start your conference play. Tell us, we've had this conversation before, right? About your habit of scheduling Murderer's Row in non-conference play, Coach. Looks like you did it again here, but at least you have a few more. At least you have a few more at home this time, right?
We do have a few more at home, which is very exciting. And honestly, you're right. We have this conversation every year, and I say the same thing every year. I look at myself and say, what was I thinking? But, I'm a competitor, and I expect my teams to have to compete against the best, and I want to know where we stand, And if that means me taking a shot to my ego, then it is what it is, and it will make us better for the future. So we need to, if we want to be one of the best and be one of the top teams in the country, then we got to play against the best and match up and just see how we match up. So, we're coming up off, out of the gate, being tested. But I think that's good early on. We were able to catch that W against UNC early on a few years ago. So that's what I'm hoping for this year. And, whether or not we get the W's, we will learn from it. And I think it's just going to be better for us in conference play because ultimately we want to win the conference and get that automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. But if not, those games are going to hurt us.
Sorry, Coach. I was going to say, do you find it harder and harder to schedule each year with the perception of UCF that as it grows to be a much better team, or is it a little bit easier for you because women's soccer at UCF in particular is considered a prestige program in the women's soccer world? So can you give us some insight on that? Like, is it getting more difficult? Is it getting less difficult? Is it staying about the same? What's it like trying to bring people down here to Orlando and maybe go visit them?
I think scheduling has always been kind of difficult. I think that we are, perceived as a really good team. And so it's hard to get people to come here. Like, they don't want to play us at home.
Boy, that also sounds familiar.
Well, yeah, with the weather too. There's the weather factor.
Yeah.
Although we've got, Wisconsin, Ohio State, so we're able to get them to come to us early. Although our games are going to be, in the evening, but It'll still be hot. So, but, there's a little bit of advantage with our weather, playing teams from out of this region. So, I think it's always been pretty difficult. So that's why I'm excited because this year we're getting some good home games, which will be great in front of our crowd and our fans.
And the road games are going to be challenging too. I know George Mason's been pretty good in the last few years. You're going to be playing them up at their place. Obviously, Florida up in Gainesville. You basically had to beat them twice in 48 hours last year. Yeah. And then that long trip out to California too. You got Long Beach and Irvine out there, and those are return games, right?
Right. The Long Beach game is a return game, and since we were out there, we figured we'd pick up another game. And a lot of times with scheduling too, it comes down to relationships. And I have some friends that are coaches, obviously, and the Irvine coach is a good friend of mine, and I figured that was another good game to have while we're on the road. And Long Beach State was definitely a return, and they have a good program, and historically are a top team in the RPI. So we have our work cut out for us.
What are you thinking about this? About the in-conference teams as well? And I know, obviously, like we mentioned earlier, South Florida is the preseason favorite. Memphis is going to be good again this year. SMU, ECU. This is the last year for UConn. We know how they're they kind of have been up and down. But tell us about what you think from the conference, at least in terms of this year, and what do you think about the impact of UConn leaving after this season?
Yeah, I think that, it's exciting. Our conference is strong, and that's where we want it to be. And we really don't have any breaks. And again, I think that's where we all want it to be so that we can help each other's RPI and the strength of that and get more teams in the NCAA tournament. So ultimately that helps and impacts our recruiting, and, the best players in the country want to go play for the best teams in the country. So, USF, they have such a strong, forward, and I can't believe she's still around. I feel like I've been playing against her forever. Evelyn.
Yeah.
Veens or Vines. I don't know how to actually.
Yeah, Evelyn Veens. Yeah, she's just.
Veens. Yeah. And I'm over her already. I'm like, graduate already. But she's a handful. And we're gonna have to take care of her, but with her, they're hard to beat, and I think she's the one who ended up scoring on us in the game that we needed to beat them last year to win the conference. So, and then, Memphis, just overall, I think that they have really good players, and, Brooke's a good coach. And, but yeah, I mean, I think you still, at the end of the day, it's anybody's championship. So, and then it's exciting because I think there's teams that are getting better, and, SMU has had ups and downs, but, past few years they've been good, and ECU too has come up. I know they had been down for a while, but it looks like they're improving. And so I think overall that, all the teams are getting better. And then UConn leaving. Yeah, it's unfortunately, we would love for them to stay. Like you said, they've had ups and downs, but we'd like to have them stay because they're a brand name, and a big, athletic department that people know. And so you want to be surrounded by teams like that, and programs and athletic departments like that. So, I won't miss really going up to UConn.
I don't think anyone will.
So at least I don't have to make that trip all the way out there and, freeze my what off. So.
Especially if you got them late in the slate too, like late October. Yeah. It's like, oh God, we got to go to UConn and Halloween. Great.
Right. So I'm not going to miss the trip, but I will miss having them in our conference for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Eric.
Coach, we had Bridget Callahan on recently, of course, in her full season now with the Pride, and she talked about. Well, good. I'm glad you listened. She's been glad to listen to her. She had high praise of you, and one of the things she talked about was when she changed positions, and it helped the team defense. And I know we joked about it because it was the game where she got the red card against South Carolina, and you were able to show for the line. But that's a big part of your success, is you've always had great defense, not with the back line, to the point where sometimes the goalie doesn't have to do much. Just talk about the strategy and putting players in places to be successful and help the team, and whether it mean changing positions or be a stronger defensive team, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the art of coaching, right? I think good coaches can figure out where, how this individual can be used, so they can be at their best, or what's best for the team. And I think that's just part of experience and the art of coaching, and also talking to the players and finding out what their confidence levels are in different positions. And so, Tim and I have been successful so far, trying to figure out, where these kids belong on the field. But, it was a good thing that happened, that red card, because it pushed, it ended up, Kat ended up, and I know you guys mentioned this, but, that may let Kat, who played in the World Cup this summer for Brazil, she ended up being a center back for us, and that whole changed her trajectory of her professional career. If she stayed in the midfield, who knows if she would have been on the Brazilian team this summer. So that helped us, and we're going to be doing that a little bit this fall, because we've had some position changes just based on knowing what we have and our strengths and weaknesses. And so you'll see some players in new positions this year, and hopefully it keeps working out for us. If it doesn't, we'll make changes again.
But that's got to mean a lot to you. You mentioned Kat, though. That changed, who knows, that helped her get to be on the Brazilian team and have that dream. It's got to mean a lot to you, because you've impacted a lot of players. I mean, Bridget said that without you, and she wouldn't be in necessarily playing professionally now with what she learned from you. You got Mo Ferreira, who's getting into coaching and things. How does that make you feel when you have all these players, after they leave, you still have an impact on them and helping them achieve what they want to achieve?
Well, it makes me extremely proud, and I'm just glad that they care what I say. You never know. These women are strong, opinionated women, and they could do what they want, but they actually choose and care what Tim and I have to tell them. So it makes me very proud. But, it's 50-50. Tim and I are here to guide them and give them the information, but at the end of the day, they have to do the work, and they have got to either trust what we're telling them or not. And, we've had good relationships with our players, and that's always meant the most to me. More than winning soccer games, believe it or not, more than the tactics, more than anything, I care about my relationships with my players. And I think when you have that and your players know that that's what's most important, they will listen. They will listen to you. So, it's wonderful that Bridget says that, but, it is really 50-50 between her and I, or, just with Kat and all the girls that have been successful.
Well, there's no doubt that we've been the beneficiaries of watching those relationships over the years and seeing some amazing soccer from your team. So, Tiffany Sahaydak of UCF Women's Soccer, the team has their exhibition home opener 10 a.m. Sunday, this coming Sunday, on the 18th against North Texas. Home opener Thursday, August 22nd, 6 p.m. against Wisconsin at the UCF Track and Soccer Complex. Home games this year against Ohio State, Arizona State, Stetson. Don't forget a road game at Florida, not that far away. And home games in conference play against Memphis, Tulsa, Temple, UConn, and South Florida on Halloween night to end the regular season and hopefully maybe clinch a regular season championship and an opportunity to go back to the NCAAs one more time. Tiffany Sahaydak, thank you so much for joining us here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. We will see you for for that home opener against Wisconsin. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again to Tiffany Sahaydak. You can follow her on Twitter at TR Sahaydak. Follow UCF Women's Soccer at UCF_W Soccer. Stick around. We'll be right back. We'll wrap up the show and do a little news and notes here and there when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Back after this. Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you. Follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com, UCF_Banneret on Twitter, Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. And we got a few news and notes that we can wrap around here. As you know, we're still just kind of in anticipation for football season. By the way, women's soccer did have their exhibition against Alabama. They lost 3-0 up in Tuscaloosa. They got another exhibition like we were talking about coming up this weekend before they start their regular season. A couple of notes from around the world of college football. The crew from ESPN College GameDay, they will start their season with their first show, their Week 0 show, they're calling it, Saturday morning, August 24th. They're going live from the Magic Kingdom, so in Orlando. So this is kind of a little weird. They announced it, and then it came out that like you can't bring any signs. You got to pay to get into the park, obviously, and they're going to be doing it from Main Street, USA, and the train depot up there. And there's not going to be like overly much fan interaction, and so that was like getting some consternation on Twitter. But I'm like, guys, for crying out loud, like they're not preventing you from wearing your gear. Like, show up, all right? There's a lot of I know for a fact that there are a lot of UCF fans here that are that have annual passes to Disney. I know they're going to be there for that for sure. But also not having a crowd around them is obviously they're here for the Miami and Florida game, which will be at Camping World Stadium later that evening. People are like, oh, it's going to be the worst game day ever. I'm like, shut up. It doesn't. Just go to, if you can make it, go there and wear your UCF stuff. That's what you should be doing, right? So, but it is kind of cool though that they're making a little bit of a habit of coming to Orlando, isn't it, Eric? Yeah,
they're making it's a habit to go to Orlando, and Disney World's last I checked is a pretty popular place for a lot of people to go. So I don't know why. Some fans in the media, some of the college football media, real shocker. They're real upset about something. They're real grumpy about it. Big shock. When they're
everyone is just they're just ready to fight now.
Here's the thing. Listen. I am a passionate fan of that show. I think it's what they have done for the sport, let alone for the network, but for college football with that show. Considering how hard, and take it from me, I've had to do remotes in a way lesser situation outdoors. There's a lot of stuff that happens if you do shows outdoors and in elements. And for what they've done with that show since the mid-'90s, taking it traveling, is pretty remarkable. They've also, so I follow the show very closely. I even know, I talk to people from time to time that are pretty familiar with that show. That's how we were able to tell you that they were coming here for the Cincinnati game when nobody else thought that was going to happen. because supposedly ESPN was biased. But whatever. But here's the thing. People are like, my God, they can't believe they're doing a show with no fans or signs. Well, first of all, their first show every year they do, week 0, is from the Bristol studios. They do a season preview where they preview the entire season. So and then they always do a show on January 1st from inside the Rose Bowl in Pasadena where there's nobody in there. So this is not the first time.
In front of the beautiful green grass of the Rose Bowl.
Correct. So this ain't the first time they've had a setting where there is no signs or fans or whatever it might be. I think they're doing the show from Disney World because it's close to – you're not going to do it outside of the Citrus Bowl. That's my question. Where do people want to do the show from? Outside the Citrus Bowl? Let's not get into that reason of all the logistic issues.
Some people talked about, like, you could do it on Church Street, which is –
Yeah, okay.
Well,
that's where I want to hang out.
That would have been a cool idea, but okay, ESPN is owned by Disney. It's a Disney show. Like, come on.
Well, and it's a lot more expensive to do a show. Like they did the show in Times Square a couple of years ago. That was one of their more expensive shows they've done. So
that's because in New York, like,
correct. It's not your options are if you try to do it, let's say in Church Street, let alone all the logistic issues with cops and things you would have to have. Or you could do it in Disney World, where yes, the home of your bills, basically owns the company. I'm going to take that one because it's probably I'm going to say it's a little bit more cost efficient. So I don't have a problem with it. It's a great show, and I think they'll put out a great season preview show. And I think the cool thing about it is that nobody has brought it up, at least on the UCF fan standpoint, is because the show is in Orlando, there's a good chance UCF will be brought up on that show.
Murph, what do you think? I know you're like, sure. But like, I don't know. I think it's good that they're back in Orlando again, right?
Sure. I mean, what do you want from me, Jeffrey?
I don't know.
Murph is still recovering. Murph is recovering from the 2 game days he was at last year with the football and the basketball version. So he's good. He's
fun. Those are fun. The only thing I can add to this that hasn't already been said, other than please stop complaining about this, it's not an issue, is for a neutral site game, and Eric, you probably know this more than me, but for a neutral site game, since you don't have a campus university to serve as your backdrop, shouldn't you want to have a backdrop that is familiar to your nationwide audience? In which case, Disneyland seems like a pretty decent idea.
Yes, that's a very fair point.
Magic Kingdom is, fairly recognizable. I will say that. So and secondly, and furthermore, stop it. Just stop. Just don't worry about this. I'm glad it's you saying that, not me.
It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a good 3-hour show. It means football's here.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. This is what it is. It's, Murph, you say this all the time. Like, it's sports, people. With a lot of Z's. But it's also like
sports with Z's. Sports with Z's is zany sports. This is just regular sports.
It's also sports television. It's fun sports. It's fun sports television, right? It's fine. It's fine. My hope is that there are a lot of UCF fans out there and that their presence is felt on the show, because there are going to be some crowd shots around during the show, of Main Street USA. Maybe they can't bring signs, but the fans are going to be there, right? And
they'll be there. They'll pay $300 to get in there.
Yeah, exactly. So they're unless you're a season pass holder.
That's right.
Go there, wear your UCF stuff, and national champs, all that kind of stuff, right?
What I'm more curious about is, will they have a guest picker for the show or not? That'll be interesting.
Povich.
Can we get Maury back, baby? Let's get Maury back. All right, if we can do that.
I have it on good authority that Maury Povich is coming back.
Maury's back, baby.
What I'm rooting for, it's funny because last year when I did my who is the likely game day picker, one of the people I put was Mickey Mouse, and a lot of people were giving me crap about it. What if they put Mickey Mouse? I could see Mickey Mouse being right. I mean, it's his backyard, right? Be in the mix for the show.
Mickey has no voice. Like, how is he gonna?
Mickey has a voice.
Yeah,
not in live and in person. Well, actually, no, I can't say it. Like, they actually do show that. All right.
By the way, the Philly Fanatic was a celebrity guest picker
Well, if they figured that out, then it's fine.
You can write things down, a sign. You can use like Philly Fanatic was actually one of the better ones they ever done because if they talked about tigers, he would have like a tiger thing, and he would always do these sign language stuff. It was really entertaining, actually.
The by the way, is Maury like our unofficial good luck charm now? I mean, think about it, right?
It's a good luck charm for somebody usually because
he picked UCF. UCF won the game. Last year. I mean, let's not sell Maury short here.
I'm still recovering from Eric's paternity test joke.
Thank you, Murphy. Thank you, Brian.
Let's please move on. I hate this show.
Moving on. Season tickets, by the way, if you're looking for UCF football season tickets, forget it. You're screwed. All 28,000 season tickets at Spectrum Stadium have been sold out for 2019. It's the first time that has ever happened. They had to sell, I think, about 60 or 70 heading into the weekend. Danny White made the announcement on Twitter on Monday. They're thinking about creating a season ticket waiting list now. Obviously, they should. Remember, the stadium seats 44,206. 28,000 of them are season tickets. You have I think it's 3,000 for opponents, and then the rest of them are single game and students. I forget exactly how many the students are. I think is it 12,000? I forget what it is,
something
but
like 10 to 12, who knows?
And then they have
a lot of kids, a lot of students,
and then there's a lot of and then there's obviously they do put up some single games out there. What I thought was interesting is I went back and I looked at home attendance since 2017, and the first 5 games of 2017, first 5 home games, UCF got 90% attendance only once. That was the ECU game. Then the South Florida game after the 49-42 game, and that was 47,000 plus. That's 106% attendance. So they sold more than the capacity. UCF has not gone below 90% since. And they've sold out officially. The last 3 have been at over 100% attendance. But here's the debate is obviously now people are on Twitter are debating about like expanding the stadium now, which I think is ridiculous. Let's focus on selling out, more than a season and building that waiting list before we start thinking about adding another 20,000 seats to the stadium. And it's not going to have any impact on what conference we get into in the future, if we even get into a different conference, because they don't care about stadium seating. They care about how many eyeballs you bring to television and how much money you bring them in terms of donations. So, but nonetheless, I think that this is a real big time feather in the cap of Danny White and his staff to do this. And I would love to see UCF fans do the same for all the other sports that have won so often and won so much last year and indeed the last 2 years. Murph, I know that you know some of the folks who've been working hard on getting to this. This was a really big goal for them to get to, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a moment where UCF athletics and their team, of the PR team, really, and people that sell tickets, they should toot their own horn. I mean, this is really a big moment. I mean, yeah, there's not much else I can say about it. It's a great milestone for the university, for the football program. Just another milestone over the past, number of years of success. They can just add this to the list. And by the way, Jeff, you are correct. It's about a 12,000 seat student section.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So no, I mean, it's good news. It's great. Just shows you the health of the program that we already knew was healthy, and it just keeps getting better.
Yeah. Elo, we never thought we'd see the day, would we?
Well, here's the thing. What I think that's helped them, and you mentioned the South Florida game in 2017, and I remember this vividly because that game kind of got bigger and bigger as the year developed because USF was having a good year and all that.
And then the game itself, as it was happening, got bigger.
Sure.
Bigger.
But I remember this game because all of a sudden people were scrambling to find tickets. And I remember people were spending hundreds of dollars just to get in. because it was such a hot ticket. And I remember UCF was like, well, if you would have bought season tickets, you could have spent that much money for season tickets and stuff like that. And so what's happened is one of the advantages people talk about, well, it's only 44, whatever, thousand. One of the positives about that is it creates urgency.
Yeah.
Urgency. You need to get season tickets if you want the South Florida game or the Stanford game and not have to spend over triple digits to get in. One of the things that, there's been a lot of chatter about college football attendance down. And one of the things that's hurt the attendance is teams like Florida, for example, that expanded their seats. Well, that's great, except it doesn't create urgency. I've talked to a buddy of mine who's a Gator fan. 10, 20 years ago, when there wasn't every game was not on TV, you felt like, man, I got to get season tickets. So I make sure that I'm in there for Florida State and LSU or Tennessee or whoever you wanted to see. What's happened now with with technology, with every game on TV on HD, you don't have that urgency anymore. I don't need to buy season tickets anymore. I could get them on a secondary market if I want to, because I can maybe get a better deal if I feel like this team's not very good this year or things like that. Or I could just stay home and watch the game. So there's no urgency now to get tickets and to be at every game if the stadium is so big. I think UCF's advantages from their standpoint is you have to do that, because if you don't buy season tickets now, if you want to go to the South Florida game, you're probably going to have to spend over $100 to get in.
Yeah. I was mentioning that I wonder if some of these schools that have some of these massive stadiums aren't looking at this and thinking, we would probably be doing better if we lopped off, say, another 10, 15,000 from some of these stadiums. Like, think if you're Tennessee, right? Right now, there are 7 stadiums among the autonomous 5 schools that are actually smaller than Spectrum Stadium. You guys care to guess which schools they are? I actually tweeted out earlier. You probably saw it.
I didn't see it.
All right.
Go ahead. I didn't see it.
There you go. I'm sorry I don't have you on my Twitter notifications.
I have all you guys on my notifications, so what the hell, man? Anyway, Baylor, TCU. By the way, Baylor's stadium is the newest. Baylor, TCU, Boston College, Duke, Vanderbilt, Washington State, and Wake Forest are all smaller by capacity than Spectrum Stadium. And Utah and Oregon State are just barely more by no more than about a couple hundred. All right. So it doesn't the stadium is fine in terms of capacity. I think that there are a bunch of schools out there that would that are looking at their current situation and saying, man, maybe we should. UCF has it made because they are pumping demand for their product.
Well, and I think the big thing is, I think the key is not just expanding with generic seats. Is can you expand those, premium seats, which has been done very well for UCF. But it keeps you on urgency. There's urgency is the word. You have to, if you want to secure yourself to get tickets, that's the season tickets, and I think that helps. That's why. A lot of times, in stadiums like that, you're going to draw very well. And look, you have South Florida this year on the schedule, and you have Stanford on the schedule. It's a good schedule from that standpoint. Those are probably the 2 games that a lot of UCF fans, the casual fan, probably wants to go to. So now you secure yourself at a reasonable price for the season ticket package. You don't necessarily have to go to every game, but you can maybe give the ticket to somebody else. But you now know you have a seat to those games instead of, oh, crap, it's game week. I got to go get pay probably hundreds of dollars from scalpers.
Yeah. Think about if you're Cal, okay, Cal Berkeley. Cal Memorial Stadium seats 62,000. Don't you think they'd love to increase demand by if that stadium was down to
maybe down the
45?
road and I'm not saying maybe down the road and maybe it'll make sense to expand. But I think it's a knee-jerk reaction. I think the reason some people have brought it up is because they want to schedule more attractive opponents, and they feel like by having a bigger stadium, you could give more tickets to the opponent and things like that. But that doesn't guarantee that either. So
right.
I think that's the wrong reason to expand. The reason you should expand is because there's huge demand, and I know we don't know that. It's a very fair weather sports fan market these days. I mean, Florida State had 30 to 40,000 season tickets a few years ago when they were coming off national championships. 2 crappy seasons later, they're down. Their season tickets are now down in the teens. So you got to be careful with that because what comes around goes around. It's a volatile situation, so you got to be careful with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you think about like other schools that actually have shrunk their stadiums, like Stanford, for example. Like theirs used to seat what, like over 80,000 at one point, and its maximum I think for a game was 94,000 in the 1930s. And they dropped it down to about. I'm trying to see what they dropped it down to 50,000 in Stanford, right? So, yeah, we're approaching a new era where actually Spectrum Stadium is becoming the model to look forward to. So, another thing that I wanted to look at, and this is the last thing we'll wrap up is looking at all sports, and as we get ready to start the all sports schedule here with women's soccer. We thought, remember, Ela, last year that it was the winningest season possibly ever for all UCF team sports. Well, I went back and looked at the data going back to 2001, 2002, which was the first year of UCF softball. So UCF sports portfolio has not had any additions or subtractions since that year in terms of which sports. And wouldn't you know it, last year, if you add up all the win-loss records for the teams that count wins and losses, so both tennis programs, baseball, softball, both basketballs, both soccers, football, and volleyball, 71% win percentage last year. That's the highest since 2001, 2002, in that entire 18-year period. Second highest was 671 in 03-04. Third highest, the year before, 2017, 2018, 653. So to credit to, I think that this is a real credit to Danny White and what he's been able to achieve. And he set out to create a winning top 25 program across the board, and he succeeded in doing that. And the proof is in the pudding. And I think that, who else deserves a lot of credit, though, is the coaches who have come in and demanded excellence, and we've seen it. We've seen it manifest itself, especially last year. What a ride last year was! Like, what could you possibly do to follow that up, right? Right, Eric? I mean, come on.
Just make every team make the tournament at that point, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Brian Murphy, because since he returned from California, UCF has won everywhere. So I really believe Brian brought winning from Los Angeles. So thank you, Brian, on behalf of Night Nation.
It's a winning town, baby.
All I can say, Eric, is you're damn welcome.
All right, let's wrap this puppy up. We've got, we're going to continue with getting some preview stuff up there for this week. Brian, what do you have coming up this week?
Well, we get to talk
Do we have a quarterback yet? No? Okay.
No.
By the way.
But we will continue to ask questions on Friday. That is the next time that the media gets to meet with UCF players and coaches. We're scheduled to meet with the offensive coaches. Not exactly sure whom yet. Maybe Heupel is out there since we haven't seen him in about a week. But I'm sure he will not tell us who the quarterback is. Other than that, I really should put up my story. I went around asking a bunch of guys what they're most looking forward to this season. What's something that they don't know right now that they're most looking forward to finding out this season. And so I have a lot of responses to that question that I should put up. And over the weekend, I will be contributing, Jeffrey, right, in a SB Nation-wide question and answer sort of team-specific. What am I doing?
Yeah, it's basically – so this is what's funny. No, the mothership has asked every team site to send someone over to do just a quick preview where they answer the same 5 questions. And Murph, you know UCF football better than anybody I know, so I sent them you. So be sure to look for that on the mothership.
Well,
he did have a meaty thing. He filled out in the American Conference. He had a ballot for crying out loud.
Yeah, had a ballot. I mean, the Heisman ballot's in the mail.
I think it's funny that we did this series about the 5 biggest questions about UCF football, and then
SB Nation, comes back and like, hey, answer these 5 bigger questions.
Called the 5 biggest questions for UCF football.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. But anyway,
I guess we're trendsetters on the network,
That's right, baby.
Yeah, that's right. No, they're just following our lead.
Elo, what you got?
So I'm going to be working on who are some of the top fall UCF athletes you need to see this fall. You heard perhaps a couple of those names Coach Sahaydak mentioned, but who are some others? I will have that for you in the Black and Gold Banneret. So I'll be working on that. So some of the top athletes this fall, because one of the things we'll be doing this fall, each week, we're going to give out some awards, right? Like a little night of the week, a little who's the top UCF athlete.
Yeah, one of the features that we're looking at every week, we're going to do a 3 stars. We're going to do 3 stars for all the Olympic sports at UCF, and that's one thing that I'm looking forward to doing is I want to have a lot more frequent all sports. Obviously, we cover all sports at UCF, but I want to even step it up even more. So that's one thing we'll have. We'll obviously have our nightcaps for the weekend in all sports. And that'll be fun too. And we're continuing our sports previews as well. Hopefully we'll be talking to Scott Calabrese really soon, Todd Dagenet really soon. We're going to dive in with golf and tennis probably as the fall goes on, because they play sort of across both semesters. So that's going to be a lot of fun too, and it'll be great to talk to them as well. All right. Make sure you follow us at UCF_Banneret. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. And of course at blackandgoldbanneret.com. Each of us individually. Brian is at spokes_Murphy. Eric is at Eric Lopez Elo. Follow Luke Sarris too at Luke Sarris FBN. He's been savage. Luke has been savage this week.
He's this generation's Macho Man Randy Savage.
He is. He is just killing it out there, dude. And yeah, I mean, we have and obviously follow Jeremy.
He's got a depth chart out already. He's got a depth chart. He ain't waiting for the coaching staff.
He posted the projected 2-deep depth chart. He did the McMurphy story. He's got another one in the works right now, comparing UCF as one of the best programs in the decade, which is like, I mean, he's just killing it out here, man. It's I mean, he's really embarrassing the rest of us, quite frankly. No. Follow Luke and follow Jeremy Brenner, of course, as well, to make sure that you follow all of his stuff that he'll be coming up with for us as we head into an inch closer to football season. We are 10 days away from watching actual college football on television, boys. Can you smell it?
Just think, Jeffrey, we might come here next week in 7 days, and we might have a quarterback name.
We might have a kicker and a punter name too. We don't know that yet, but
just
saying, All right, for Brian and Eric, I'm Jeff. Thank you so much for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. We'll catch you next week.